everybody, and welcome to the Football Philosophy channel. And it's AC Milan at Old Trafford this evening. Massive game. AC Milan have won the Champions League or the Old European Cup on 7 separate occasions. Only Real Madrid have won it more often than AC Milan. One of the toughest occasions, one of the toughest runs they had to win the Old European Cup was in 1969. In 1969 they won it. They beat the previous 2 winners on the way to the final. In the quarter final they beat the 1967 winners, Glasgow Celtic, and in the semi final they beat the 1968 winners, which were Manchester United. They beat us 2-1. 2-1 on aggregate in the 1969 semi-final. United were the holders at the time. In the final that season, AC Milan beat Ajax, who had a young Johan Cruyff in the lineup. The Ajax team that went on to win the European Cup in 3 successive seasons of 71, 72 and 73. But like I say, it was a fantastic victory for AC Milan, beating all the best teams around to get to that final, and then obviously a really up and coming team in the final. In the quarter final against Celtic, they drew 0-0, and on the home patch they drew 0-0 on the home patch, and then beat Celtic at Celtic Park 1-0 in the second leg. And what it must have been like playing Celtic in those days at Celtic Park, needing to go there and needing to win, was an unbelievable feat in those days, beating Celtic, who'd won, as I say, they'd won the champions at the European Cup in '67. In the semi-final against us, they beat us 2-0 in the San Siro, and there was an unbelievable game at Old Trafford for the second leg. United won 1-0. Charlton, Law and Best were in United's lineup. There was 7 survivors, 7 players who played in the European Cup final for United in '68. Denis Law played in that game as well as Charlton and Best, and it was the last time that those 3 players played in a European tie together. Denis Law, Bobby Charlton got a goal back for United. United needed to win 2-0 obviously to get it to extra time. Bobby Charlton got a fantastic goal laid on by George Best in the 70th minute, and United threw the proverbial kitchen sink at them for the last 20 minutes, but they held out. Denis Law reputedly had the ball over the line in the last couple of minutes for an equaliser. Anybody who was there that evening will probably swear to you that it was over the line. I've heard people say it was a yard over the line. There is a photograph out there. I'm sure there's a photograph out there that sort of proves that it was over the line. I'm pretty certain I've seen it at some time. I've looked for it. I can't find it. Maybe it's my imagination, but I'm pretty sure there is a photograph over there that shows that ball being over the line. It was a disaster for Denis Law. Denis Law was injured for the 1968 final and didn't play in that final when they beat Benfica 4-1, the first English team to win the European Cup. United were in 1968. As I say, Denis Law missed that final, and then the following season they got beat by AC Milan in the semi-final. So Denis never actually got to play in a European Cup final. So as much as a disaster as it was for United, for Denis, it was a real kick in the teeth, if you like, especially since it looked like he thought he'd equalised in the last couple of minutes. If that goal, if I'm not saying a goal, it wasn't a goal, was it? But if that had been given, you never know. Denis might have played in a final and maybe even won the European Cup, playing in the final itself. That particular season, Johan Cruyff was the joint second leading scorer with 6 goals in that European Cup season. The leading scorer was Denis Law with 9. And maybe that should have been 10. We'll never know. There is grainy footage out there of that game. You can find footage on YouTube, and some of it's. I think there's actually footage on YouTube of the whole game. But if you look at that game and look at the end of it, what it was like in those days. It's an unbelievable scene for me. United's players form a guard of honour by the tunnel, and they actually applaud the AC Milan players off the field, having just been beaten by them in the European Cup semi-final. I think it's a fantastic piece of footage. So that's a little bit of history. That's all behind us now. It's water under the bridge. You know, we're not out for revenge. I'm not suggesting that for 1 minute. It's a long time ago, and you know, as I say, it's water under the bridge. About 18 months ago, I was privileged to be at the Principality Stadium in Wales for a pre-season game between these two massive clubs, United and AC Milan, and I felt privileged to be there, and that was just a pre-season game. So at least this game tonight, it might not be the Champions League, but it is a competitive fixture. It is a European trophy, and it is, you know, it's not just a game that these two teams want to win, but it's actually a trophy that they'd like to win. So make no mistake, it doesn't come much bigger than this. Manchester United versus AC Milan. It really doesn't. It's a massive game, and I can't wait for it. On the team news, I've said yesterday after the press conference, it doesn't look like Marcus Rashford. He said he's going to be available. He said he's very doubtful. Cavani's very doubtful, and there's definitely no Paul Pogba, Juan Mata, Van der Beek. So the bench is going to be quite weak again, or there's going to be a few youngsters on the bench, I think. David De Gea is still in Spain. So it's looking very well. It'll be Dean Henderson in goal. I'll have a stab at the lineup now. Henderson will play in goal. Wan-Bissaka will play at right full back, I think. Well, he will do. Bailey, I think, will come in for Lindelof. I think Lindelof will probably get a rest tonight and make sure he's fit for the league game against West Ham on Sunday. I think Bailey and Maguire will be the centre-back pairing. I think Luke Shaw will play at left back. A lot of people thinking Telles will play. I mentioned a few times on different shows that I think Ollie made a mistake against Sheffield United at Old Trafford. What would he give to have those 3 points in the bag now? You never know in a game of football when it's going to go right or when it's going to go wrong. And if you pick a team that you think could have been slightly stronger, the player who you pick doesn't necessarily have to be involved in one of the goals that goes against you, or a big decision that goes against you, or make a big mistake. That doesn't need to happen. But if you can make sure your team is as strong as it possibly can be, and particularly your defence, then you never know if those things would have happened. Your team might just play better. Your team might win a game that they went and lost just by tweaking it one little bit, by being a little bit stronger in one position. It can make all the difference. I think Ollie has learnt his lesson from that Sheffield United game. We'll never know now if Luke Shaw would have played, because Luke Shaw is comfortably the best left back in the club. If he'd have played in that game, maybe we would have those 3 points. Now, like I say, we'll never know. On that subject of the back four being strong, by the way, I am predicting it will be Wan-Bissaka, Bailey, Maguire and Shaw. But it is a game we do want to win. It is a game it's really important for Ollie to try and win a trophy this season, and he wants to stay in this trophy. He wants to stay in the FA Cup as long as possible. It wouldn't surprise me if the back four is Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Maguire and Shaw, but I'll be very surprised if he makes 2 changes. So I'm going to go with the 1 change. I think Bailey might get a game, but not Telles. In midfield, I think Matic will come in. A lot of people suggesting Fred will get a rest. He very rarely gets a rest. But I've also noticed that I'd love to see McTominay and Matic play together. I really would. I like bigger, stronger players. I'd love to see McTominay and Matic. But he never plays Matic with McTominay, and I don't get it all. Very, very rarely. The last time I can remember playing McTominay and Matic, and I've had people say to me on Twitter it didn't go well. I know it didn't go well. Leipzig away, but we played with a back five. Bruno played too far up the field, plus we played with 2 forwards along. Bruno was amongst those forwards, really. It was like 3 forwards. So we only had 2 people in midfield. In commentary that night, Not that the commentators mean a lot, but Glenn Hoddle has been the manager of England. And in commentary that night, Glenn Hoddle said United are getting overrun in midfield just because they haven't got enough players in midfield. And he was dead right. So it's not just me saying it. You know, an ex-England manager was on the TV saying it. United got overrun in midfield that night because they didn't have enough players in midfield. It was as simple as that. So if it had been Fred and Matic or Fred and McTominay or McTominay and Pogba or Pogba and Fred, whoever it might have been, they might well have got overrun that night. So why on earth he's got it? He seems to have it against that combination since that day, and it's completely unfair. And his worries, for me, are unfounded. But even so, he rarely goes McTominay and Matic. So I think McTominay will get a rest. I think it'll be Fred and Matic in the middle tonight. I think Bruno will play at number 10 unless he uses any of the youngsters. There isn't much choice up front. Like we say, Rashford's out, Cavani's out, Juan Mata's out, who might have played in a Europa League game, or certainly in maybe some of the smaller Europa League games he often plays. So I think the front three will be Greenwood, Martial and Dan James. So just to recap, I fancy it's going to be Henderson, Wan-Bissaka, Bailey, Maguire and Shaw, Fred and Matic, Bruno, Greenwood, Martial and James. That's what I fancy. In the other games this evening, if you want to watch another game, our game's at 5 to 6, don't forget. So if you want a bit of football viewing at 8 o'clock, there are other games. I'd love to have watched Slavia Prague v Rangers. Slavia Prague knocked Leicester out, which surprised me. So I'd love to have seen that game. See how Rangers cope with a team that managed to knock out Leicester. But that game's at 5 to 6, the same as ours. So I won't be able to see that one. But at 8 o'clock, there's Olympiacos versus Arsenal. That's on BT2. There's also Spurs versus Dynamo Zagreb. That's on BT Sport / ESPN, whatever that means. I think it must be shown on both channels, I suppose. Or anyway, it's on BT Sport ESPN. And then there's one that I definitely don't understand. Roma versus Shakhtar. That's my choice. Chris Smalling's just back from injury. And I imagine will be playing for Roma. He played at the weekend, so I think he'll play tonight. And Shakhtar beat Real Madrid twice in the group stages of the Champions League, but finished third and dropped down into the Europa League. So I fancy that should be a good game, Roma versus Shakhtar. If I can watch it, that's the one I'm going to watch. I'm going to have to get some expert advice on how to find it, because it's on BT Sport Digital Exclusive. Whatever that means, BT Sport Digital Exclusive. So hopefully I can find that. If not, I will flick between Arsenal and Olympiacos and Spurs and Dynamo Zagreb. Watch a bit of that. In the Champions League last night, as expected, Liverpool got through. They beat Leipzig 2-0, gone through 4-0 on aggregate. PSG had a glimmer of hope. Barca had a glimmer of hope away to PSG. They were 1-0 down, a penalty by Mbappe. That was his fourth goal at a tie. Then they equalised, an absolute thunderbolt from Lionel Messi, a fantastic goal, a thunderbolt it was. And on the stroke of half time, they got a penalty, and it was saved by the keeper. Messi took it. It was saved by the keeper. They knew they had to score 4 before the kicks off, and it was still needed. They still needed to score 4, even though PSG scored a goal, because 4-1 would have taken it to extra time. So if Messi could have put that penalty away, it would have given the spirits a boost, and maybe they certainly would have been in with more of a chance in the second half. But missing that penalty finished the game off for me, and it finished 1-1, despite the fact that Barca had plenty of chances, by the way. So PSG went through 5-2 on aggregate. That gives us a quarter-final so far of PSG, Porto, Liverpool and Borussia Dortmund. The rest of the last 16 games are next Tuesday and Wednesday, followed by the second legs of these Europa League games. Our second leg is next week in Milan. So that's that. Massive game tonight. As I said, we can't get revenge for what happened in 1969. I'm sure Dennis will be watching. I hope Dennis is well, and I'm sure he'll be thinking back to 1969 when he's watching that game. I'm sure it'll be in his memory. I hope you've enjoyed that show. If you've enjoyed that show, please tell all your friends. Please subscribe. If you didn't enjoy it, don't tell anybody. Keep stum.